All right. Hey, everyone. My name's Maura. I'm the digital content manager here. We are going to get started with our presentation shortly. So my colleague Megan is in the chat. If you come to a webinar, you might have seen her, and sometimes I'm in the chat. We reversed it today. So definitely drop us a link, say hi, let us know what your business is or what content you create, where you're tuning in from. We'd love to just know who is hanging out with us today. I am in Arlington, Virginia, which is just outside of DC. It is super hot out today. It's very humid. And like I said, I'm the digital content manager here at MeetEdgar. So if you are ever chatting with us on social, I am the person you're chatting with. I handle all of our social. Awesome. Drew is here from Bennington. Annette is here from Chicago. Megan's in Denver. So if you guys didn't know, MeetEdgar is a 100% remote company. So we are scattered all over the country. We have some people in Canada. Our founder is in London. Oh my gosh, you guys, you're from everywhere. I love it. Real estate agent Karen is from SoCal. Love it. Joey's from Fort Lauderdale. Boone's from New Orleans. You guys are coming in from everywhere. I love it. Sally's from Raleigh. She used MeetEdgar to manage and post on social. Cool. Love it. Laura does B2B content. Like to get the most out of that. Amazing, amazing. Ooh, Ted in Vegas, real estate and virtual tour company. That's cool. This is awesome. Okay, so here's how this is gonna work today. We have our chat. I definitely want you guys asking questions. I definitely want you sharing. I will not always have the chat open while I'm chatting, but Megan will be in there. If we don't get to a question, we're gonna have a Q&A at the end. If you have to hop off, ask your question anyways, and we'll send you an email afterwards so that we can make sure we get all of your questions answered. Feel free to use the chat. Please be nice. If you have tips, share them nicely. We love our chats here at MeetEdgar, so you guys are always great about sharing your ideas or sharing your feedback. So, keep that stuff coming. Megan's gonna answer everything she can. If she misses it, I'll get it at the end, I promise. We are gonna chat for about 45 minutes to 50 minutes today. I'm going to share as much content as I can, and then I'm gonna leave it open to some questions for you guys. Of course, we have a special offer for you. It's not one we usually offer on our webinars, so you might wanna stick around for it. And just so you know, we will have a replay. I promise you the replay will go out hopefully this afternoon. If not, it will go out first thing tomorrow morning. So don't worry, if something's not working, there will be a replay. Okay, so we're gonna get started. This is the 5-step formula to maximizing your content. As I said before, I'm the digital content manager here at MeetEdgar. I manage all of our content. I write our blogs, I write our emails, I handle all of our social media. I've been in social media for 11 years. Before I was at MeetEdgar, I was a freelancer. I was a solopreneur, and a lot like you guys, I built my business off of content. Now that I work for MeetEdgar full-time, I still have a side hustle. So I work with small and medium-sized businesses managing their content. So this formula is something I use every single day. It is masterful for me, and I really hope it's the same way for you guys. I think you're gonna get a lot out of it. So feel free to ask questions, feel free to get advice, whatever you guys need, that's what we're here for. But right now, we're going to get started. So I'm gonna pull up our screen. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Let me know if you can't. Lisa's from Denmark, Sarah's from Columbus. Yes, 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 fantastic. We have so many international people here. All right, so let's get started. Our 5-step formula to maximizing your content's ROI. You guys create amazing content. You're gonna wanna get the most out of it. So let's get started. Like I said already, I introduced myself. I'm Maura, digital content manager. I also have a side hustle. This is our amazing team. If you don't know who MeetEdgar is, if you've never been on a MeetEdgar webinar, we are a social media company. We help people learn how to use social media, and we also have a scheduling tool, which is Edgar, which gives you a really easy way to organize and manage your social. There's only 12 of us on our team. We started Laura Roeder was a solopreneur. She needed an easier way to schedule her own social for her courses and her blog. And everyone on our team is content creators. our head of CX has a blog, our head of marketing is a podcaster, I have a side hustle, our HR manager, she also has a blog. So we are all content managers, we are all content creators, and we really understand why it's so important. So whenever you guys reach out to us and you ask us a question, just know you are hearing from people who use the tool, who do exactly what you guys do, and who work really hard to make sure that we're giving you the very best content and the very best tool you can have to create content. This picture was from our hike. We went on a team hike a month ago during our retreat to Pinnacle Peak. It was amazing. It's very, very hot. I'm not a hiker, but we got some really good pictures. And like I said, we're a remote team, so it's fun to be together. All right. So I'm going to get started very, very simple. What is content? Because I'm going to be honest with you, content's kind of a buzzwordy, it's kind of a buzzword these days. And I don't think it means a lot. So I just want to be clear on what we think content is, what we mean when we say content, and what I refer to when I talk about content here today on this webinar. So content is really anything that communicates your message to your audience. It's how you get what you're talking about out to your audience. So it's everything from blog posts to your podcast to videos you create, to your social posts that promote that content, to the way your profile picture looks or what's on your homepage. For the purpose of this webinar, the content that I'm really talking about is the main content pieces that you're producing over and over again consistently. So it might be your blog post that you post every week, or your email newsletter that you send out every other week, or your podcast that you put out once a month. That's the content that I'm really referring to when I'm talking about maximizing that content. So it's not necessarily the social post, although that's a super important component. What I'm talking about is that content you're sharing on a regular basis. So if you guys are doing if you have some type of content you're putting out on a regular basis that's not a social post, I'd love if you just let me know in our chat. If you're blogging or if you're, producing YouTube videos, anything like that, just kind of throw it in the chat just to let me know what you guys are working on. Great. Sarah's got a podcast. Lindsay has a blog and a newsletter. Sarah has videos, blog. Ooh, you guys are creating all types of content. Video content, awesome. All right, cool. YouTube blog, I love it. So what do I mean when I talk about the ROI of content, right? So we established what our content is, and now we want to talk about the ROI. So I want to first start off by investment doesn't mean the money, because you're not always investing money in your content. A lot of us are, we're scrappy, we're writing it all ourselves, we're not paying for designers, but that's not what I mean. I mean the time and energy and effort you put into the content that you create, because that's super valuable. I mean, if you're a solopreneur, if you're a side hustler like I am, your most valuable asset is time. For all of us. So if you want to know, if you're going to get anything out of the time and energy and effort you're putting into this content, you got to know what your content's bringing back to you. And I always say, your content should have a job. What is it going to be doing for you and for your business and for your audience? And how are you going to measure that? So when I say your ROI, with that return on investment of content, it doesn't always mean dollars. Sometimes it just means what you want that content to do. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but that's just we're getting clear on it, okay? So why am I having this webinar? Because honestly, I understand what it's like to be on that content creation treadmill. And let me know if you have ever felt this way. You're just constantly getting out content. You're just pushing it out as much as possible. And you need to be, because everyone says content is king. So you're writing these blogs and you're publishing them. And then before you know it, you just got to put the next one out. That can be kind of exhausting and a little bit stressful if you're also trying to do other things in your life or your business. Jess says she's not great at creating the right content. We'll talk about that, Jess, for sure. But there's probably ways you can figure out how you're creating the right content. So that's really what you're going to learn here, is understanding how that content is going to translate to your goals, how it's going to build your business. If it's not translating to your goals and building your business, why it's not doing that. And then when you learn to start maximizing that ROI, you figure out like how to create the best content and the most valuable content, which is what's going to help you stand out in the crowded marketplace. And it's going to help you build that know, like, and trust factor with your audience faster. So we talk about know, like, and trust a lot here at MeetEdgar. You've heard me talk about it before. I'm sorry, but it's really important. You know, we buy from people we know, like, and trust. And that happens in that order: know, like, and trust. And we happen to build those factors through content. So when you're maximizing your content, you're giving yourself the ability to build that know, like, and trust factor even faster. Okay, so I just wanted to give you guys like a very quick little behind the scenes screen grab of analytics of what happens when you can start using this formula. So this formula is something that we at MeetEdgar follow. It's something I follow as a freelancer. So for this screen grab in particular, it is for a freelance client of mine. He's an IT consultant, and this was from the first month I started working with him. And all I did was I started implementing the steps of this content. So he had some blog posts that he would promote on social media, on his LinkedIn and Twitter. And he would share them. He would share, you know, a few other like curated articles and things like that. But he wasn't really seeing like any success out of it. So I went in and I put into place this 5-step formula. And as you can see, we had 20% users. We had 23% new users, 25% sessions. Everything grew in that first month without creating any new content. Okay, I took what he already had and I put it into the formula, and we saw all these spikes. And then what ended up happening is the more we learned what worked, the more we were able to put it into play. So this, like I said, this is 1 month of using this formula. And this is the growth we were able to see with an IT consultant, solopreneur, just me, and I was helping him out. So that's just like a quick look of like what you can do with this formula when you get started, which is what we're going to do in just a second. All right, so you need 2 things for this formula. You need a content channel, which you guys have already mentioned, your blogs, your podcasts, your videos, those types of things. And then you also need a social media presence. And I'm a big believer that you do not need thousands of followers to see success. You don't. You can start with just a handful. You can start with 50. 50 of the right followers is going to get you much farther than 5,000. So have 1 or 2 social platforms. Which ones are up to you? That's for you to choose. But these are all you need to get started with this formula. So please don't get overwhelmed if you don't have a ton of content or if you don't have a ton of followers. You don't need that to see that, to get this to start working for you. Okay. Oh, Laura makes content for an IT company. All right. So Megan's got your questions in there. We're going to get started. This is our 5-step formula to maximizing your content's ROI. So here we go. Let's go. Step 1. Step 1 I kind of already touched on. What do you want your content to do for you? More importantly, ask yourself, what's the next step that your audience is going to take? A lot of times I feel like people are writing blogs or producing videos and they're not really sure what they want their audience to do once they have created that content or once they have consumed that content. And that's a big mistake. If you don't know what you want your audience to be doing after, then they're not going to know what to do either. You got to know what step you want them to take. So think about the actions that like your audience takes that help to grow your business. So like if you're a podcaster, maybe you're trying to get people to actually subscribe and rate and review, right? If you're a blogger, maybe you're trying to get people to click on those affiliate links, or maybe you're trying to like get website traffic so you can show brands that you're a great partner. Maybe you're trying to get email subscribers because that's how people end up signing up for your courses. Or maybe, you're trying to get people to buy products. Whatever it is, there's some type of action that you probably want people to take after they've consumed your content. So that's the thing I think you all need to be thinking about when you create any content. Of course, it's going to vary. It's going to have different topics. We talk about lots of things, but I think you need to think, what is this driving my audience to? How does it support me growing my business? because I made a note here, right? Everyone talks about influencers in the internet, being an influencer, being influential. To me, these are the signs of influence. If you can influence your audience to take an action through your content, then you're an influencer. So really think about that. Think about the actions your audience takes that help to grow your business after they've consumed your content. That is step number one, guys. That is the first thing we need to do. So when you think about these, think about them with metrics and specific timelines, okay? And you don't need to complicate this. Choose one goal for this month. I want X number of email subscribers. So I need this amount of people getting onto my landing page. I want to bring X amount of people back to my website in X amount of days. I want this many views on my YouTube video in this many weeks. Always think about the timeline and the specific metric. Just saying like, I want people to read my blog isn't gonna help you get anywhere. And that's how you get stuck on this content creation treadmill, because you're just creating content over and over without really knowing where it's moving you to or how it's moving your business. Give yourself a goal, set yourself a time frame around it. And like I said, give your content a job to do. Say this blog post is going to be about driving, email subscribers, or this video at the end of it, I'm gonna ask people to sign up for my email list or rate and review us, get really, really clear on what that call to action is before you start creating the content. It takes 2 steps before you sit down to brainstorm. Just say, what am I gonna do? So I have a worksheet for you guys that I will drop in that will help you start planning this. And I'm just curious, does anyone already do this? Like, do you guys start trying to do this when you create your content? Like, do you set some goals around it? All right, so that's a content planner you guys can use. I do it whenever I create any blogs, whenever I do anything for MeetEdgar, it's got goals to it. Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of you aren't really doing it, but I think it's such a great thing to start doing, because remember, your time is valuable. Your time is, it matters. It's who you are, it's how you spend it. And you could be spending it doing anything. You're choosing to spend it creating content. All right, so I just saw a question. Beth asked, how do you know those metrics aren't just vanity metrics? That's really important, Beth. So vanity metrics are metrics that they're vanity. They don't always help build your business. So I think for you guys, you might want to think what does help build my business? What is the thing that has gotten me from a follower to a customer? So it's going to look different for every single business. A lot of people I know will say email subscribers, because really email subscribers, they're more engaged. You can reach them more often. Sometimes people are consults. I want free consults. So I think that's something you might need to think about in your business. Is well, what is the actions people take that help grow it? And then they're not vanity. So just think about that. Maybe website traffic isn't important to you, but subscribers are. Things like that. Think about that. Okay. Chris has, how do you balance CTAs without turning off the reader? We're going to get to that. All right. So we're going to keep going. This is where I'm hearing your fears already, guys. So step 2 is to get into the sharing mindset and getting ready to really promote and promote and promote your content. I know you guys are going to have a lot of fears. I get it. We feel it too sometimes. I understand how scary it can be to have CTAs and to ask. This is the #1 problem content creators make with creating their content, is they don't promote it enough and they don't ask enough. And I understand, right? Because you don't want to be spammy, and you don't want to annoy your followers. You don't want your feeds to be boring. You don't want people to unfollow you. You don't want people to engage with or stop engaging with you. I completely understand. These are very common fears. If you guys are feeling these, that's good, because it means you're not trying to be spammy. You're not trying to annoy people. And I promise you, you're not going to with this method. But there's one thing I really, really want you to remember. Well, there's a couple. The first is, when it comes to promoting your content, people don't see it as often as you think they do. No one pays attention to your content like you do. This is like, these metrics are a couple of years old, so they've probably gone down. They were the most recent things I could find there from 2016 from Wiselytics. Facebook posts 75% of impressions happen in the first 2.5 hours of a Facebook post. It means 75% of people who are going to see that post won't see it after, or see it after that first 2.5 hour mark. That's a lot. Twitter goes so much faster. 12 minutes, and then most people will stop seeing your tweet after 12 minutes that you sent it. LinkedIn is about a day. Instagram is about 2 days, but it's a little bit less now because the algorithm has been changing. So I know it can feel like everyone sees everything you put out there, but they really don't. They don't. The feeds are crowded. Things move fast. You have to get really comfortable with repeating yourself, with resharing your content, with resharing your posts, resharing your CTAs, asking again and again, because not everyone you see is going to see it, all right? So definitely remember that. Again, these stats are old, but the feeds are crowded. You know it. You're out there struggling, trying to get that content out there. You know that not everyone's seeing your stuff. There's a lot of people you're competing with. So just remember that when you're like, I don't want to promote my content too much. This is a quote from our founder, Laura Roeder, and it's one of my favorite things. Every single social post is an opportunity, so multiply the social posts to multiply the opportunities. Your audience doesn't always see your first posts. Your audience is growing. So if someone who just followed you yesterday wasn't following you 3 months ago, they didn't see what you created 3 months ago. Every single time you put something out, you're multiplying the opportunities to help somebody, to give them the value, because this is the most important thing. When you are scared of feeling over spammy, of turning off your audience with content, with shares, with your email newsletter, with your podcast, your content deserves to be seen by your audience. Because here's the thing, you're probably going to be solving problems with your content. If you're creating great content, then it's content that your audience wants. If you take the time to listen to your audience, if you talk to them, if you understand the problems they have or the interests they have in certain topics, then they're going to want to see your content because you're going to be able to solve their problems. They follow you for a reason. Your audience follows you because they want to hear from you, all right? And your stuff is valuable. It really, really is. When you share your content more than once, you multiply the opportunities for you to get your content out in front of your audience and from your audience to learn from it. I cannot say this enough because we all struggle with it. I've been doing this for 11 years and I still struggle with it. Selling is selfless, all right? If you have a great product, a great service, then selling is selfless because you're solving a problem. And I promise I'm gonna get into like how you don't really overwhelm people and seem really spammy, but most of us aren't. The majority of content creators, we're not overly spammy. We hold back. We don't share enough. We don't promote enough because we're scared of being spammy. So I want you guys to remember this. Selling is selfless. Promoting your content is helping your audience. Asking for them to get closer to you is helping them because you're going to keep providing the best value that you can, okay? That is step 2, and I know it sounds really simple, but it's probably one of the most important things you guys as content creators can do, is remind yourself that your content deserves to be seen by your audience, okay? Selling is selfless. Multiply those opportunities. Trust me when I tell you it's going to get easier, and I'm about to share with you how you can make sure you're like not being spammy, all right? Just check our questions. Okay, let's see. All right, Megan's got our chat down, so if you guys have questions that she hasn't answered, I promise we'll get back to them, and we're gonna keep going. Step 3, setting up your schedule for sharing success. So at this point, you know the content you're creating. You understand what it is, and you are setting goals to it. You're giving your content a job to do. You're saying this blog post, the call to action will be to sign up for my email newsletter, or this blog post, the call to action will be, to sign up for a free consult. Or this podcast, I'm going to ask people to rate and review. Okay, you're giving your people a job. You're getting really comfortable with promoting, with like sharing out your content. Now you're worried about being spammy. I get it. We've all seen those feeds. They're super boring. No one wants to be a boring feed. So this is how you set up your schedule for sharing success. This is step 3. This is so key. And if you don't set up a schedule, you're giving yourself a lot more work. Setting up a schedule makes managing social media much easier. And it will not annoy your audience, I promise you guys. There we go. You will not sound repetitive if your schedule is set up correctly. I promise you, okay? Just set up that schedule, and we're gonna go into like some ways how. I'll share a couple of handouts that you guys can start using. And one of the ways we do that is categories. So we'll go back first. Getting ahead of myself. Real quick, let's check in the chat. How do you guys schedule your content? Do you guys have a schedule for it, for your social media? Do you just kind of share what's going on in the day? Is there any way, like, I'd love to hear just from you guys, if there's any specific way that you guys share your content. Becky schedules is a dip in and out. Lindsay doesn't really have a schedule. Cool. Oshani has one schedule every month. I love that. Money products. Love it. Mauricio schedules weekly. Jesse's starting to follow our schedule. Okay, cool. So you guys have kind of, Laura says, you guys have kind of started creating your schedule, right? And it's not always about how often you share. So I think a lot of people get worried about when they should be sharing or how much they should be sharing. Is it 2 days? Is it 3 days? And that there's time and place in this. That's important. But one of the things that we like to think about at MeetEdgar is like, well, what are we sharing? What content are we sharing? Because we don't want to seem spammy. We don't want to just send links to our blogs over and over and over. Like you guys wouldn't love that. And I don't think I would love creating that. So we don't just share links to our stuff over and over. We don't just share newsletters over and over. We get creative. One of the ways we do that is by creating categories. So categories is just like topics, right? Imagine if you like talk to this guy that you used to know in high school and all he ever does is talk about when he won the state championship his senior year. Like that's all he ever talked about. Can you imagine actually wanting to have more conversations with that guy? You wouldn't, right? You would just be completely over it. That's kind of like social media. If you're that guy who just talks about that one football game you won in high school, no one's going to want to talk to you. You got to learn to be a little bit of a conversationalist, which is why we think topics or categories is the great way to go, because it gives you a little bit of a wider variety. So if you are an Edgar user and you happen to have started using categories, I'd love for you guys to kind of share your categories. I'm going to share with you guys a handout that we did. Right. So I'm sharing with you guys a content categories planner. You can use this to start choosing your categories. And I'm going to get to how this will make sure you're not being promoted or overly spammy when you promote your content. But creating categories balances your feed. And it makes it really easy to keep creating content. And it makes it really easy to feel really good about promoting that content that really does bring your audience back. Right. Okay, so. Okay, Sarah, big sticking point because I'm not sure the best way to do this. You have school, kick-ass life, blog, quotes, behavior. Those are great. Those are great categories. So that was what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 categories. That's as many as you need to get started. So I'm going to give you guys some examples of categories that I just came up with while I was creating this. And this will change for everyone. So let me know in the chat like what your industry is or what types of topics you talk about, and we can maybe brainstorm some of your categories. Lindsay, self-care, sustainable beauty, fashion for brands, environments, sustainable travel, floral, soap. I love that. Those are perfect categories. So many categories. Deb Dolan, real estate, cool. Do you buy or sell? That's one thing, right? So I know my boyfriend's a real estate agent. I manage his social media as well. And we do a lot of inspirational stuff about buying homes. We give a lot of trends, like current trends in the real estate market. We, of course, share new homes that are on the market. We also share testimonials from his happy clients. And then we also share some like financial stuff because that's actually important too. That's 5 different categories. Just pulling some out. Yeah, Ted just says like virtual course, HR, productivity, workforce, payroll, life and health coaching. Yes, okay, you guys are so many people, parenting bloggers, all right? You guys have a baby web shop. These are so great. Ben says payment plan software, it's so boring. No, Ben, payment plan, you can make that really interesting, okay? Like, think about when you're creating your categories, think about what's important to your audience. What are they thinking about? Who are they? And where are the things that you excel at that you can share, okay? Our audience is a ton of entrepreneurs. I share a ton of entrepreneur quotes. It doesn't really connect completely to MeetEdgar, but Laura was an entrepreneur and our audience is entrepreneurs. So I send entrepreneur quotes in our categories. One category I think everyone should do is questions. I love asking questions. They're so easy to ask. You can do them. You can create a little quote graphic for it. What's your most, what are you most excited about when it comes to payday? Or what's your most frustrating thing for payday if you're a payment plan software? That would be a great question, like asking these questions about where your audience is coming from. It's a great category if you're just getting started and you're not really sure what to do. Richard, this chat will not be available, but I'll make sure that any of the links that that Megan and I are sharing will get there. So again, I will try and go back and give you guys some ideas from our chat if you've been dropping in, like if you're not sure what your categories are. But this is how I want you to think about it. Think about the things your audience is interested in and how it relates to who you are or what you're experts in. Another really good suggestion I have, as you can see in the beauty YouTuber column, that last one is personal shares. You're a solopreneur or you're an entrepreneur, having a category where you share about your life is really powerful. If you're sharing like pictures, behind the scenes stuff, like what's happening, I could give you guys a behind the scenes look at this ridiculous like setup I have for this webinar right now, and that could be a post for me. So think about the categories are things that you are experts in and that your audience is interested in. And it's okay if you only have a couple. You really only need to start with 3 or 4, and you already have one because it's probably going to be links back to your website, or links back to your videos, or links back to your podcast, whatever. Okay, so making sure we're good on time. So once you have your categories, you're probably already seeing that you're not going to seem really overly promotional if you have a bunch of different categories because you're talking about a lot of different things. As for example, if I'm this entrepreneur podcaster, I'm sharing like curated links and memes and questions about business building. I might be sharing some personal stuff. I'm not just sharing straight links. So I'm not going to be overwhelming my audience. And that's where setting up your schedule comes to, okay? So I'm about to show you guys some example schedules. And I'm also going to share a handout with you guys that you guys can use to create your own schedule. These are example schedules I created. What you do is you go back to these categories and then you decide how many you want to share, how many a day, right? Do I want to post once a day? Do I want to post twice a day? Do I want to post 3 times a day? It really depends. It depends on the platform and it depends on your audience, okay? Your audience is super active. You're probably going to want to share a lot. It just depends. We always say, figure out like what platform you're on first, and then you can figure out how often you should be sharing. So like Twitter, you should probably be sharing about 20 things a day. These that I've set up are clearly not that many. I just want to give you an example of how you could get started by just saying, all right, let's go with fitness blogger. I have 5 categories. My own content, exercise tips, fitness quotes, food photos, curated content. 5 categories. Now I'm going to put them in my schedule. Kira asked, we do have a blog about it, Kira. I don't have it on my fingertips, but I will find it for you and email it. We do have a blog about how much you should be sharing a day. We really give like the base ideas for you guys based on like best practices. And then really what you're going to want to do is test. So start off with kind of that base practice of posting 2 to 3 times a day on Facebook, 15 to 20 times a day on Twitter, once, twice on Instagram. Megan's got it. She just shared it in the blog. So start with that, and then really you're going to want to adjust as your audience works. All right. So this is just how I set up this schedule, you guys. I pulled the 5 categories that I created, and I split them up into days. So as you can see here, I have fitness quotes Monday morning, then I don't have it again until Wednesday afternoon. For my own blog posts, I put them on Tuesday and Thursday. So I'm mixing it up. So when you look at my feed, you don't see straight blog posts. You don't see straight memes and you're not sure what I'm talking about. You see a really healthy balance, okay? Dad Dylan, you don't need to skip the weekends. I just did it because I was creating this presentation and it was just easier. I think I actually, yeah, on this one I said you can share on Saturdays. When you set up your schedule, look into your social media analytics, guys. All of your social platforms will pretty much tell you what days are most active for your audience. So just, you know, kind of like take a week or 2 and just evaluate. Just start tracking like, hey, what got the most clicks, or where did I have the most comments? Like what days? It's going to differ a little bit for everyone. But you know, this is just a baseline to get you started. But this is how I help to maximize the content. This is how I don't feel bad about consistently sharing my blog or my, you know, content or my sales or my promotions, because I'm mixing it up with all these other fun things that we do. All right. So these are just like some example schedules, but you guys have everything you need to do this. You guys have the category worksheet, and then you have your schedule. And then you can just figure it out from there and mix and match, right? You can take categories out, you can add them back in, but this is just to get you started. And really what it's doing is it's getting you in the habit of constantly sharing your content along with other things. So you have this nice, beautiful, balanced feed, and you're also not shying away from sharing your stuff, from sharing the stuff that grows your business, okay? That's what it's all about. I mean, we love social, and we also believe you should share lots of different categories, but don't forget, it's gonna have to connect back to your audience. It's gonna have to come back to like your content and growing your business with that. So let's recap. Megan's got these questions. Jess had a question on curating content. Jess, I will answer that during the Q&A at the end. You have to hop off. Don't worry, I'll email you. Megan, what else? So Kim, you can plan a category not every week, but to share for every 2 weeks. That's not like you can't do that in Edgar. It's not a way in Edgar, unfortunately. You can't do it every 2 weeks. But if you're doing this manually, you can totally do it. It's really just how you decide to use it. Chris asked, 10 a.m. could be in the middle of the night, somewhere else in the world. Do you manage time zones for each client? I'm not sure what you mean by clients, but what we do at MeetEdgar, because we do have audience all over the world, is that we're sharing stuff all during the day. I have content that goes out on Twitter and Facebook at like 3 in the morning. So that's just how my audience is. And that's, you know, why I use a scheduling tool, because it helps me do that. All right, so we're gonna go to step 4. And I just want to reiterate, because we've gotten a little bit into like social scheduling and all that stuff, what we're doing here. Remember, we're maximizing your content. Your content is the content you create. The big pieces like the blogs or the podcast or the videos, the newsletters or the lead generation pieces, the big pieces. So we're talking about maximizing that. You need to make sure it's got a job. you need to make sure that you feel very comfortable promoting. Once you feel comfortable and like confident in promoting, then you are going to create your schedule and create your categories. Categories and schedules make it very easy, very balanced, so that you can like push out that blog as much as possible, push out that cool podcast episode as much as possible, push out that sale as much as possible. You know, those new items you're selling. That's what the category and schedule will help you do. It'll help it feel really balanced. Step 4 is, I wish this is something I had known at the beginning of my career. I wish I had understood this idea of variations. So again, we're going back to the content you share, that those links that are yours, whether it's your website, whether it's your YouTube, whatever. Creating multiple variations for every piece of content makes you a social media marketing ninja. I cannot even begin to tell you how smart this is, how I wish I had done it before, and I didn't, and I had to learn, but that's okay. That's why we do these things, right? So variations are exactly what they sound like. They are different ways to talk about your content, different ways to promote your specific email lead magnet or your specific podcast episode, okay? They're just variations of the same message. Why do variations work? Why should you like take one blog post and write 5 different descriptions for it? Well, what makes people click on anything is the headline. If you only use one headline or one description, right? Let's say you take your podcast episode, the only way you describe it is just by saying the title of the episode. You're reducing the chance of maximizing your clicks because people click on different headlines for different reasons. Your audience is probably attracted by different things. There's so much science to go into the science of writing captions, essentially the science of writing headlines. There's been a ton of studies on it, actually. It's a psychological thing. It's very interesting. But when you use variations, you can test these different words, these different phrases. You can test all like the different ways that get people interested in your stuff, get people interested in your content. So we're running a little bit behind, but one way I create variations. So whenever I write a blog for MeetEdgar, whenever I write a blog for one of my clients, whenever I promote a podcast for one of my clients, I create 5 different variations of that link, 5 different ways of describing the content that's in there. And I follow these principles. And I'll tell you why in a second. Curiosity. You won't believe what we discovered. Negativity. This one mistake will kill you. Questions. Is your social media strategy working? Numbers. 3 stellar ideas for your social media strategy. Or a value promise. How to, right? If you guys have ever followed BuzzFeed, BuzzFeed does this very well. They use different headline types, okay? And that's just what you're doing with your social media content. Why does this matter? Okay, why would you want to do this? Because when you start working with variations, when you start using, and variations, remember, you're not changing the content. You're just changing the way you describe it in your social media post. When you start working with these variations, you understand what gets your audience to click. So this slide right here is an example from our MeetEdgar blog. I had 7 different variations, as you can see. They each went out one time, but they each got really different amount of clicks. This one got, what was that, 25? This one got 39. Variation 5 got 28. Variation 3, my top one, got 88. I don't know if you guys can see this or if it just looks blurry on mine. If it looks blurry on you guys, I'm sorry, I apologize. But what it is you can see that everyone got different variation, different number of clicks. Hang on one second. I'm going to try to upload the exact screenshot if I still have it so that you guys can see, because what it does is it shows you that different people click in different ways. The variation that had my top one was a question. Hang on one second, guys. I'm gonna find this for you. Sorry, I did not realize it would be so small. It looked so good on my on my thing when I was putting it together. Go figure. Yeah, so I pulled this from my history tab. And again, I apologize that it is so small on our screen. But what it does, I'm just gonna walk it through if I can't find it, because I probably can't find it. I wanna be wary of you guys' time, but I'll link it in the email we send afterwards. Really what this does is, again, sorry it's too small, but what it shows is that variation 3 got 88 clicks. These were all to the same blog post, but one variation got 0 clicks and one variation got 88. So what does that teach me as a content creator and as a marketer? That I need to ask questions. The variation that did the best was, what side should the images you share on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn actually be? So if I wanted to promote this as a ad on Facebook, then I would use the question, because I know that's the one that gets clicks. That's what happens when you start using variations. You start understanding what words, what phrases, how you say things. You start understanding how that contributes to people clicking. Again, I'm sorry this is so blurry and you can't read it. I am going to share with you guys a way for you guys to add your own variations. Shania, should you only use the variation that gets the most click or use all 5? I use all 5, but I think it's helpful to understand what makes people click for the future, for when I'm writing headlines or when I'm writing subject lines. Like, it helps me to understand, well, our audience opens things that have question marks. So that's just something to think. Irina asked, variations work great on Twitter, but would it look too repetitive on Facebook? Irina, if you are balancing your schedule and have lots of different content in there, then it's not going to look repetitive. It's going to look very different. All right, so let me send you guys a handout of variations in case you wanted to start messing around. If you create blogs, if you create videos, anything with a headline, if you create any type of link, you should definitely be trying variations. You should definitely be experimenting, either following those psychological principles that I shared or just your own. All right, step 5 is super easy. You guys are gonna love it. Measure, adjust, and repeat. That's it. Once you start doing this for every piece of content, you give it a job, you get comfortable with promoting it, you put it into your schedule with your categories, and then you use different variations and start measuring every variation. That's it. You're golden. You're maximizing your content. And this is a compounding thing. Once you start doing it once, it starts going over and over. It starts working really, really well. It's awesome. This formula, guys, it can just grow your business so fast. You're setting yourself up for success because it's repeatable and it's scalable. Once you start creating more content, you're getting really good at it. It's growing your business, and you're learning all along the way what time slots work best, what categories are most popular, what headlines work best. This formula will teach you all of those things, and you can record it all. You can keep track of it. If you don't use Edgar, use Bitly links. Use Bitly links to measure. If you use Google UTM parameters to measure, okay? That's what you gotta do. And remember, whether or not you hit whatever goal, it's okay. You're not gonna hit every goal that you set for your piece of content, but you're definitely gonna learn something. You're gonna learn what time of day works best, or what category is working better, or what headline worked best. You know, all of this stuff you already have access to. You already have access to your social platform analytics. You probably already have access to Google Analytics. Just go back and check. Give yourself a month or a week or whatever that time frame was, and dig in. It's okay. Like, this is the practice, and this is the work. And the more you learn, the better you get. And then you can go back to step 1 and repeat using, the lessons you've learned. All right, so let's real fast. We have 10 minutes. I'm a little bit behind, but hope you guys got a lot out of that. Remember, if you want to maximize any piece of content you create, and you should be, because you take time and you take a lot of effort and energy to create your content, so you should make the most out of it. Set your SMART goals. Give every piece of content a job. Get in your sharing mindset. Selling is selfless. Your audience needs your content. Please don't be scared to share it to them. Set up your schedule for sharing, stay consistent, add variety, create variations of your content, measure, rinse, repeat, all right? That's it. Follow this. I promise you, if you start doing this, you're going to see results, and it's gonna be really cool. So, how does Edgar help? Listen, I just gave you guys everything you need to start doing this. You guys have all of my worksheets. That's all you need to get started, is by following those worksheets, set your goals. Make it a habit of tracking. Edgar does all this automatically. He just does. He makes it so much easier. If you want to try it for free, you can. Just go to bit.ly/ROI formula and you can get 2 weeks of Edgar for free. You don't ask for a credit card. You just hop in. You can start experimenting. Start, put your content in. If you have 3 pieces of content, you can start using this formula. If you have 2 pieces of content, you can start using this formula. Or if you're not an Edgar user and you want to try this and you're really excited and you're ready to go, you can get 50% off 3 months of MeetEdgar with the code Content ROI. 50% off for 3 months. If you did this today, you got started today, you signed up, that's like a whole summer of content. Imagine how much growth you guys could have from now until the end of September. At 50% off, $24.50 a month. Massive content. And remember, Edgar keeps working harder for you the longer you use it. So if you use it for 3 months, you're gonna get a lot of work out of it. You're gonna see a lot of maximizing out of it. So those are the 2 offers. Or do it manually, that works too. You can use all of our spreadsheets and set yourself up and be golden, okay? You don't need to use Edgar, it just makes it a lot easier if you do. Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing right now and I'm gonna see what questions you guys have. If you wanna see the back end of Edgar, if you're curious as to how it helps, some of the cool things, then we can definitely get you started. If you have questions about the categories, how to set up your schedule, maybe not feeling spammy, let me know. I am keeping an eye on the chat starting now. So let me know what questions you have. Will you be able to yes. Okay, this afternoon, hopefully, if I run out of time, it'll be tomorrow. I'm busy too. You will get this, this webinar. They will get you'll get the slides and you get all the handouts. Everything will be coming your way, all right? Celia, cool. Ted, what analytics do you use? Bitly free analytics kind of suck, no. Yeah, Ted, so I do use Bitly. Obviously, I just gave you guys a Bitly link. But the other option I would tell you is you Google UTM Builder. Let me just grab that link really quickly. Is very helpful. If you don't use Google UTM Builder, it is so helpful. And it's one of my favorite things to use. I use that to set up UTMs so that I can measure everything against each other. Ah, Megan has a blog, cool. Okay, what other questions? How long, Janus, how long do you let variations run for? 3 months, should you always be running variations even if you have a winter variation? So you can let variations run for really as long as you want them to. So I let variations run usually 6 weeks because that's the way our schedule is set up. If you have a lot of content, you're probably not going to go through every variation in 6 weeks. It just depends on how much content you have. If I'm trying to test something, I'll start with just 3 variations. And what I let variations keep running even if I have a winner. What I do with that winner variation is I either use it to promote the ad, I'll boost it, right? Or I just keep that in mind for the next things I'm gonna create. So if I'm still creating headlines, I think like, what was the best variation from my most recent experiments? And if I see that like a variation isn't really getting any clicks, then I'll edit it. And then I'll add like another one to try and maximize those clips as well. So you can keep adding variations as you want. If none of them are working, or if only one's working, it's best to always have like a couple that are working for you. You should have a winner, but you should have like a couple that look really good. All right, Jess. When curating content, when is the best way to pick content that complements your service? So a couple of things. Ask your audience what they read, what they listen to. That is one of my favorite questions to ask MeetEdgar people is like, what's your favorite podcast? What's your favorite website? What's your favorite blog? That can be very useful, is just understanding what they already hear, because then you'll probably find some good content from those people if they already listen to them. So my best answer would be ask your audience, and also like look around, just keep an eye out. If you don't use an RSS, Feedly is a really good one where you can search lots of different sources, and you'll probably stumble upon some that work really well for you. And I think if you are a Edgar user, which I think you might be, you can connect Feedly to your Edgar and it'll just all automatically go in. And then you can just kind of pick and choose what works. Boone, how would you recommend valuing the ROI for your social content? Is there an industry standard for likes, clicks, or engagement? So Boone, when it comes down to it, it depends on your, again, one of your favorite answers, I'm sure. It depends on you. It depends on your industry. And again, it depends on what actually helps grow your business. So we always say, you know, MeetEdgar clicks, if you're getting traffic back to your website, that's a good thing because you can retarget later. You really want to get them closer to a sale, whatever that might be. I actually don't think likes are a great indicator for the value because I think they're very low cost. They're very easy to do. They don't require a lot of effort. Shares are a different thing. If I get shares, that's a huge indicator for me that this is a great ROI. If I have people sharing a blog post, to me, it's a bigger indicator than if somebody is just liking. So I think it's best to kind of think about what your industry is and let me know. Feel free to share what your industry is and I can maybe help you. But again, think about how your customers, how you make money off of this. If you're a podcaster, you know, you're gonna want people subscribing and rating and reviewing. If you are a SaaS company like you are, we get people through our email list to sign up a lot for Edgar. So that's just kind of, I think, how you should think about content is like, well, how does that help grow my business? All right. Kim, when you say where do you keep your metrics, do you mean in Edgar, like where we keep where you can find the history of things, or do you just mean how I manage it? Summer, starting my blog, 2 blog posts to get going. Yeah, absolutely, Summer, 2 blog posts, absolutely. You know what you can do is start curating a lot of content. When you first get started, curating content and asking questions is a great way just to start maximizing your content and getting your feed going. And then that'll free you up some time to start creating more posts, but you can totally get started with 2 posts. Jane, how often should we produce new blogs? You know, I think that's something that depends on you and your bandwidth. So if you are somebody who is committed to writing a blog once a week, definitely go for it. I know that a lot of solopreneurs, it's not feasible. So what I always say when it comes to creating new content, don't always go for quantity over quality. If you can create 1 great blog a month, then that's all you need to do. So just, you know, you want to, whatever timeline or like amount of time to create this content, just choose it and be consistent. Because that's how you train your audience to know what to expect. And that's how they know, like, if you say I'm gonna blog weekly and then you only end up blogging once a month and they don't know what to expect. So just choose your timeline and your frequency and stick to it. And then your audience is gonna get comfortable with that. All right. Kira, the site is Feedly. So I don't know if Megan shared it, but I just shared it. Okay. Megan is answering so many questions. Ted, what do I think of Pinterest? Ooh, I love Pinterest. We have some exciting things happening with Pinterest behind the scenes here. We use Pinterest a lot. I chose not to focus on them for this webinar just because it's kind of a whole different beast, but I think Pinterest can be great. We are definitely gonna have some Pinterest content coming up soon, so keep an eye out. We're going to be talking a lot about how to create graphics for Pinterest and things like that. So yeah, Pinterest I love. Keep an eye out, like I said, because we're going to be creating some content around Pinterest in the next couple months. Our post content tends to be pretty long, full show description link for our podcast. I would recommend creating variations. Shortening it to headline and length. Haley, you can get, if yours are long, you can get really, Megan already shared a link right there, but I would definitely say you can get really creative with it, right? So I like to say, like, if you have like a great quote that happened in there, definitely always, like, I always have one variation that is like the straight title with a link, because you never know, people like that too. But I'd also say, like, just pull other, like, if there's a really good quote, or if you're interviewing someone, or if there's like a question that gets asked in there that's really interesting, like, you can have a lot of freedom. If you do use Edgar, Edgar's auto variations will probably be a really cool tool for you to use, because he just pulls content straight from it. But let me know if that answered your question. You can get really creative with your variations if you have a lot of content. Juliet, you could do multiple variations. Yeah, they'd be different pins. Megan just answered you. But you can use the same content of kind of varying your language, because honestly, like, that does make a difference on Pinterest. Like, yes, it's mainly a visual thing, but the phrases or the language you use can be really different, can matter. All right, we just hit our 1 hour mark. I hope I answered everyone's questions. I hope Megan answered everyone's question, because she was the boss in the chats. Yeah, Haley, awesome, cool. Just check out auto variations. And what I use when I do auto variations, I won't always leave the exact auto variation, but it usually will get my head turning, and I'll be like, oh, this could be an interesting variation. So I would check those out. All right, cool. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know that an hour of your day is super, super valuable. So I am so grateful that you guys were here. I cannot wait to see the content. Please follow us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook at MeetEdgar. Let me know. Like I said, I'm the person behind the handle. So let me know. Share a link with me. I want to hear from you guys. Megan, thank you for rocking in the chat. I will send out our replay soon. If you're not an Edgar user, please give us a shot. Like, we would love to have you. You can try us for 2 weeks for 14 days for free. You can get us for 3 months for half off. We'd love to help you. We'd love to keep hanging out with you. We'll have new webinars coming out soon. And yeah, that is it. We will see you guys soon.